Good afternoon. This is Joy Lashery, your host for Matured Musicians Group, and with our guest today, Pedro Bartes. I hope I've said that last name correct. Is that correct, Pedro?
That was perfect.
All right, great. I think you enjoyed this interview. We're going to have to cut it a little short than we usually do. Pedro is working, but he has agreed to our interview today, so we're very thankful for that, Pedro. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for even thinking of me. I can't believe you decided to go for me. There are so many great musicians here in Seattle.
Well, I didn't know about your broadcast career. I had no clue. But before we get into that, I am going to introduce my sponsor, Chad Christ, at the Luscious Moss Studio, that is owned and operated by Chad. And he's set up primarily for drummer recordings and guitarists. He creates a very cooperative environment in his studio. So you can find him on Facebook under Luscious Moss Studio. All right. With that being said, how in the world did you get into the drumming business? Not to mention the broadcasting business.
Well, the drumming business is kind of weird. When I was like maybe 9 years old, there were many parties in my elementary school, and I used to play something called bombo, which is like the bass drum that you play when you play drums. And it's
Yeah.
music, Argentinian music called folklore. So I used to play that on stage with a little kid playing guitar and me playing that. And I was probably 9. And I don't know why. I just did it. A couple of shows, 3, 4, 5 shows, and I loved it. And then when I was 14, I went to see a band for the first time live. I fell in love with the singer. She was beautiful. And I go like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And so I started at the age of 14. I bought my first drum set, and from then onwards, he was just being crazy about drums, absolutely insane about drums.
All right. Wonderful. I'm going to have to, and I apologize if for some reason, I'm only on YouTube and people aren't able to see us here. So I'm going to, Pedro, I'm going to leave you holding the ball, holding the ball here while I log out and try to get back in here. Okay.
Sure,
I
yeah.
gotta try to get us live. It might disconnect you. If it does, just reconnect. All
Okay.
right. All right. Sorry, well, folks. See you in a minute. I'm unable to correct that. So we're only on YouTube today. I'm going to have to send out an email and tell people I will post it on Matured Musicians. Unfortunately, it won't be live. And I will also, I've never had this happen. Why don't you just know it? And
Don't worry.
it'll also be live on my Facebook, and it'll also be posted on YouTube because it is live there, thank goodness. So anyway, we were talking about this beautiful singer. Is that your wife, Luciana?
No, no, no.
Oh,
My wife is a very, very beautiful woman, but no, her name was Anna Sunier.
uh-huh.
And funny because, again, I must have been 15 when I saw her for the first time. And when I was probably 21, I used to play jazz, and she ended up singing in one of my bands.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
it was like a complete, like, okay, I got it. I did it. That's it. I can quit drums right now. That was it.
Oh my goodness. So said you were 15 at the time?
Yes, when I was 15, I started playing drums. Thankfully, my mom was really cool with it. She really supported me, and I used to play, like a teenager. You play rock, so I used to play Rush. I used to play Iron Maiden, AC/DC, and we were very active with a band in Argentina in my city, Santa Fe. We played many places, wherever we could, and the musicians that I played with when I was a kid, they all ended up being professional musicians. And so I became very passionate. When I finished high school, I was supposed to go into law or politics. I was very good in high school, but I told my mom at the age of 18, "Hey mom, you know what? I love this with passion and I want to do it." And she goes like, "If you promise me you're going to really study, I let you do it for a couple of years. And so for since I was 18 until I was 22, I devoted myself to studying drums for real. And I remember studying, and it's going to sound like I'm exaggerating, but I am not, probably 12 to 15 hours a day,
Yeah.
every single day. I used to sleep with a metronome in my head because I wanted to have perfect tempo. This is not lie. This is not a lie. Until my mom discovered that I had something blinking under the covers, and she thought I was insane for doing that. That was going to affect my brains. And so I did that for until I was probably 24. I really devoted myself to playing any kind of music. I was able to join many bands in Argentina, playing all kind of genres from rock, from jazz, funk, Brazilian music, even cumbia. And I used to make a living just playing with whoever. I just go to recording sessions or touring or whatever. And I did it for a while until I was close to 24.
Wow.
Fortunately, then I went crazy. I went totally crazy with the drumming, and it was advisable for me to stop because it was really affecting me.
Oh
So,
no.
oh yeah, it was really bad. Like, I used to. Every musician knows this. I used to stick my fingers with tape because I wanted to have the perfect
No.
position.
No.
I used to just study 50. I think I wouldn't go out any single day because I wanted to study. My wife, my now wife, girlfriend at that time, she was so patient with me.
No.
And that's the reason why I love her more than anybody else, because she really put up with me being totally insane for drums. I am insane now, but at least now it's too late. I'm 52. Who cares? But at that time, I was like, so yeah, that was my life. I honestly, when I was in Argentina until the age of 24, there was nothing else in my mind but drumming.
Oh, for heaven's sakes. I love it. I have, I wish I had your time. And I've seen you out at the Duval, Twin Dragon in Duval, and I was just, you're like a machine. I mean, not the bad note of that, but just so, your beats are just so clean, smooth, and they just flow. So I need to take that metronome to bed and start listening to it. Oh my gosh. It's
Well, I was
amazing.
fortunate to study with really great teachers. My city, Santa Fe, is a very small city,
Mhm.
and so we had only one teacher for all the drummers there. And so I went with this person. At some point, this person goes like, "Well, I don't have anything else to teach you. Why don't you go to the capital of the city?" So the capital of the country, Buenos Aires, which is
Wow.
maybe like 6 hours on a bus or 8 hours on a bus.
Yeah.
So every 15 days, I would travel to Buenos Aires to study with another teacher. And the teacher that I had was a Brazilian teacher. Unfortunately, he passed, Cesare Jr., and he
Yeah.
played with the most amazing Brazilian musicians. And to me, he was the one that gave me my love for. I love Brazilian music, candombe, that kind of music from South America, and he gave me that passion for that music. So I owe him a lot.
So where did you learn to speak English? I mean, I don't, I'm not sure in Argentina where you speak Portuguese or Spanish. So is it Spanish or Portuguese there?
It is Spanish,
Okay.
and the thing is, when I went crazy about drums, and one day I decided to quit. Honestly, quit cold turkey. I couldn't listen to music anymore because I would
Oh,
get depressed because I wouldn't be able to play drums.
oh my gosh.
So I stopped listening to music, nothing, not a single song. And I started listening to talk radio because I just wanted to get distracted. And
Yeah.
at that time, it was the internet time, 1994. And my wife and I we were one of the first people in my city, small city again, to have the internet. So I started discovering internet online. I don't know if you
Gosh.
remember, but at that time we used to use real player video. So I used to listen to stations from California, Howard Stern. I used to listen to Howard Stern back in the
Yeah.
days. PBI station from Los Angeles, and fell in love with English. And my wife, she at that time she was already an English teacher as a second language. And I said, okay, maybe that's what I want to do. I want to become a teacher too. So I went to a university in Argentina for 3 years.
Uh,
And before I graduated, the year before, my wife goes like, the best way to learn English is go to the United States. And why don't we do radio? You love radio. That would
wow.
make sense.
What year? 1994? This when this?
1994, we started coming to the United States regularly. We went to Houston for a couple of months. Then we went to Philadelphia. And then in 1999, we sent an email to many universities or colleges because we didn't have much money. And we were accepted in Green River Community College here in
Oh,
Auburn.
cool. Yeah. That's a local college here. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Or-
took the broadcasting classes at Green River Community College, a station called KGRG. And that's another, I
yeah.
mean, we dropped everything that we had in Argentina, our houses, our jobs, and
Oh
everything.
my
And we
God.
just came here with nothing. And we went to school. And I will never forget the first day at Green River Community College, which we love now. And we attended our first class and we saw a bunch of 16, 17-year-old kids on the table talking to the teacher, screaming. And we're like, this is not where I went to school.
Oh,
In
no.
Argentina, school, I grew up in a dictatorship. So schools were
Yeah.
like, proper schools. Nobody would talk. Teachers would control everything. So, and they embraced us. Every student there at Green River Community College was so nice to us. And well, they told us, you want to take a shift on the radio, even though our English was horrible. They were like, take it. So they gave us what is called the 2 to 6, which is the 2 to 6 in the morning radio station.
Yeah.
Nobody listens to it. And my wife and I were like, yeah, sure, why not? And so we started doing our own radio show at 2 in the morning. And it was supposed to be one day a week. And then we asked for a second day. Then we asked for a third day. And we ended up doing a regular show every day from 2 to 6 in the morning. And then we would sleep on a couch there at the station and go to school there at Green River Community College. So it was amazing for us. We had such a great experience. And that's where we started like, okay, let's take this seriously. I started writing scripts, doing fake interviews and coming up with characters and trying to be different. We already had the accent that made us different.
All right.
And we did a show that was so popular at 2 a.m. in the morning that our professor goes like, okay, we're going to move you to the main spot. So they moved us to the morning show.
Wow.
And yeah.
And is that where you started broadcasting in Spanish as well, or did you just stick to the English?
So we did the show in KGRG for 2 years. And then my wife got contacted by a Spanish radio station at that time called Radio Sol, Radio Sun, Radio Sol. And it was the first time that station here in Seattle was going to go 24 hours Spanish.
Wow.
And so she got hired to do the morning show. And at that time, we finished school. We graduated from Green River Community College. And I don't know if you know how the system for visas work. Someone needs to be hired in order to have what's called a work visa.
Yes.
So my wife got the work visa and I could stay in the country. And in the meantime, when you graduate from a school here, they give you 1 year as a bonus. So you can work for 1 year without having a visa. So you can practice into the field that you went to school for. So I started working in a country radio station and KZOK. And my wife was doing a radio show in Spanish. Then I started doing a show in Spanish. And we worked in Spanish radio for probably 2 years. It was also incredible because at that time it was so popular. We were like, for real, like known in every restaurant because, all the cooks happened to be Latinos.
Yes.
So in any restaurant downtown Seattle that I would go to the kitchen and they knew who I was and they would give me free food, free tequila. It was the best time ever. Unfortunately, yeah, then my wife, for reasons that we can, expand, she got let go. And so we lost our visa, what meant that we needed to go back to Argentina right away. So that was the worst time in our lives here in Seattle because, for real, it was like from 1 hour to the other, we just needed to leave the country. And we called a lawyer. A lawyer explained to us that we can stay as tourists. We couldn't work. We had some savings. So we started using our savings. And that was when Bob Rivers contacted me and said that he wanted me to work for him. And so he wanted to hire me. Unfortunately, because there's a system of numbers with visas, so you have a certain number of visas every year. When he wanted to hire me, there were no more visas available. So that's how good Bob Rivers is. I begged him if he could hire my wife. So because my wife had a number, so we could stay in the country. And without hesitation, he said yes. Even though he didn't know who my wife was. He hired my wife. I promised I was going to start helping him. And then after a year passed, he hired me. And then he decided to keep my wife in the staff. So that's how my wife, both and I started working for the Bob Rivers Show, probably 2003, around 2004. Yeah.
That's an amazing story. Pedro, you have Lady Luck sitting on your shoulder. Or
Yeah,
pure determination. I don't know which.
Well, I mean, seriously, we're so blessed because I mean, one day we always say the same. We're going to write a book because it was incredible the amount of
Yes.
things we went through. And then, of course, when we started working with Bob, that's like a completely different life. Imagine a kid from Argentina just like dreaming of being with any celebrity from the United States, and all of a sudden having any celebrity with you. My first job with Bob was to pre-interview the people that would go to the show. So I got to interview every comedian that you could think of. I'm
Oh
talking
my
about the
gosh.
biggest ones, all of them. Any actor that would go to, and then the show decided to have musicians. So I got the chance to have. You can think of any musician, and I sat this to this person and started talking to them, and that was when I told Bob, "Why don't we buy an electric drum set to have in the studio? So whenever we have a band, they can play right away, so it wouldn't waste time setting up." And so that was when we bought our first drum set, and that was when we started inviting musicians to the show, and that
Oh,
changed everything.
that's wonderful. So, how did you get involved with Lynn Sorensen and uh, what the heck is it about? Something about the Impalers.
Jeff
Something.
Caton.
I'm sorry, I
Jeff,
don't know this
no,
band.
that's fine. Well, I told you at that time I had already completely dropped music. I wasn't playing
Gosh,
drums at all. And one day, Bob had a set of congas in the studio. And during a break, because I was a producer, so I was in the other studio, I walked in and I just started, just banging on the congas. And Bob was like, "Wow, you know how to play." And I said, "Well, you don't know this about me, but I used to be a drummer. That's what I used to do for a living." He goes like, "You are joking." I said, "No."
yeah.
So on the air, they opened the break, and typical Bob, he goes, "Did you guys know that Pedro used to be a drummer?" So they brought me into the studio. They made me play the congas. And that was the very beginning of Spike and Impalers. Bob had already set up a contest to invite musicians, and that's how Lynn Sorensen got into the band. That's how Jeff Caton got into the band. And they were going to do the first show at the casino. And Bob goes like, "Well, we discovered that you play percussion. Why don't you play with the band?" So I was freaking out. I had not touched any instrument in probably 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I go like, "Sure, why not? Let's dive in. Let's jump into this." And we did it one day, and I will never forget that Bob told me that on the air when they made that, telling the audience that I was going to play percussion. The audience always at KCOK, they were really kind to me, and they always liked me, and they treated me with respect. So they sold like 200 tickets just right after the announcement that I was going to play percussion.
Oh my gosh.
So they made me play 2 songs, and I loved it. And Bob said, "Hey, from now onwards, if you want to play with us, you're welcome." And so I started playing with Spike and Impalers from that show to every other show.
Well, I'm a little confused. What exactly were you playing? The drums or the congos?
No,
Or?
no, I wish. I mean, Jeff Caton wouldn't let me even touch the drum set. No. Oh, no. Well, I was playing congas, and then we have timbales and whatever, any percussive instrument that I could just get my hands on, I would play.
Oh, that's so cool. And then how did you move from there to, I mean, there's so much to your story I would love to touch. I hate this darn computer because it keeps flashing white and dark on my side. But anyway, moving along, how in the world did you get into drumming or did you not play drums for bands?
Well, the thing is that Bob, I told you, I made him buy this tiny little drum set,
Yeah,
electric
yeah,
drum set, because
yeah.
we started having bands in the studio. So we had, I don't honestly, I should have had a list of the bands. We had any band you could think of.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time that I dared ask someone to play on the air live was this famous trumpet called Arturo Sandoval.
Ah,
I don't know if you know who he is. There's a movie about his life. He's from Cuba. He escaped
ah,
Cuba and stayed in the United States. He won an Oscar for writing the music for Chaplin, the movie.
ah.
And he is incredibly famous in the jazz world. And he came to the studio once to play trumpet. And I don't know how I did it, but I said, "Sir, can I play with you on the air?"
Oh,
And maybe because he felt forced, he said yes.
oh,
So I had a cajon. I don't know if you know what a cajon is. It's
yeah,
an instrument that you
yeah,
sit.
yeah. I know what a cajon is.
So I had this cajon. And I played live on the show, and it went great. And he loved it. Bob loved it. Everybody loved it. So that's when we decided to have a drum set there. So if there was a band, the drummer would play. But if there was a band with no drummer, I would ask to play. So we bought this tiny drum set. It was, for those who know, electric drum set. It was a TDR9, I think it was. And so again, bands that would come to the show would play live. And I got more and more into drumming again because during the breaks I would go and sit on the drum set. After the show was over, I would sit on the drum set. And then one day Bob decided to buy a better drum set. And he said, okay, you can take the small one home. So I took my electric drum set, the small one, to my apartment. At that time I was living in Lake Union. And I started playing again electric drum set. That was the only thing I had, but it was, just to kick the habit again. And I loved it. I went into again. I became obsessed again, like I am now. And it was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna be sick again. But I did it like with passion. At the beginning, it was more like just, okay, this is what I love. My wife was very supportive. The neighbors were not. The neighbors hated me. But I made an arrangement with the neighbors. I say, anytime I'm making too much noise, this is my phone number. Call me. And I started playing again. And I knew I couldn't play drums with Spike and Impalers because Jeff was playing, but I was pushing more and more to maybe play one song here and there. And then Bob decided to form a band called Butternuts.
Okay.
And it was with musicians. One of the producers of the show, Eric Corman, he played bass. Bob played keyboards, and we invited a singer. We invited some musicians, and we started playing. Like, we would just go on the air and say, hey, we're going to be playing at this cafe for free. We're going to try to raise money to donate. And if you want to go, just go. And we started playing many places on the weekends. And that's how I started playing drums again.
Oh my gosh. So I don't know this Bob Rivers show because I'm kind of not part of this whole scene. I came here late. I got here. I moved here in '86. So I really wasn't into any of the music that was out there at the time. So I'm kind of not knowing these people, but I did notice something about iHeart Radio. Is that the same thing or was that different?
Yeah, when I started with Bob Rivers, we were in CBS Radio and we were at KZOK, which was the classic rock station, the biggest one that we
Okay.
ever had here
All
in
right.
Seattle. And that's why, I mean, Bob had something that we did that was always amazing. He would do contests to promote guitarists. So all the guitarists that you could think of, young kids that would just now be amazing at that
Right.
time, young, they would go to the show and play. We did many competitions to get singers. Like, we did backup singers for the Spike and Imperial show,
Mm,
and we did competitions on the air. So it was a music oriented show. Even though it was a talk show, we had tons of music.
yeah.
And then we moved to iHeartMedia,
Ah,
and so the entire show moved to iHeartMedia, and that's when we used to have every Friday and Thursday a musician playing a band playing at the end of the show, and any band that you could think of, any jazz band that would come to Jazz Alley would go to our show, or any rock band that would come to any casino would go to our show. So we got to meet the most amazing musicians in the country thanks to
yeah.
the Bob Dylan show.
That's just amazing. Oh, what fun. All I could say is what fun. And like I said, I heard you play. I just think you're well, there's an old saying. I don't know if you understand it, but you're the cat's meow.
Oh, thank
That's
you. Well, I'm
that.
really respectful of drumming. I love it with all my heart, and
Oh,
really, like, I dream of it. And so I try to study. I mean, I have to work, but I devote myself time. I wake up every single day at 5 a.m. in the morning, and I study drums until 8 a.m. in the morning, and then at night when I come back from work, from say 6 to 10 p.m. at night. So I try to study as much as possible. I love it, and I I'm gonna say a bad word. I apologize, Joy, but I'm gonna say it
oh,
anyway. I'm a drum whore. I play with anybody. I don't care if you want to have a drummer and you call me and I have time available, I'll be there because I love it so much. I feed with other musicians. Like, when I play with my guitarists, I like to listen to them and try to go with them. So that's how my first band, official band, was a cover band called Groove Surfers. They called me to play. I didn't think I was good enough at that time because I had not played in a while. But then it worked out. I started playing with them many places. Then there's another band that I play right now with a full vinyl jacket. It's called.
yes,
We
yes,
play
I saw.
70s music. We play many, almost every weekend now.
That.
And so yeah, and I love playing. So to me, it's a blessing more than anything else.
So I understand that the job ended, was that at iHeart that it ended? That was there something happened there that you changed jobs, or
Well,
did I
during
miss
the
that?
pandemic, yeah, unfortunately, like many other businesses, um, for the kind of format that I was working for, I was doing a show with Jody Brothers. When Bob Rivers retired in 2014, uh,
Ah,
my wife and I both got hired by iHeart to do a show with, I don't know if you know these people, Marty Reamer, who is an amazing broadcaster here in Seattle, and Jody Brothers, who is also an amazing broadcaster. So we worked with them for probably 6 years until 2020 when iHeart decided not to have more producers because they didn't have the budget for that.
yeah.
So I was let go during the pandemic, and I just got hired. I just got hired. I'm lying. Like 2 years ago,
You
I
got
got
hired
hired
by
by
who?
Salem Communications. So I produce a radio show here called Live from Seattle with Tim Gaitas. He's the host of the show. And then I also work doing production and voices for commercials for the Spanish radio station called La Patrona 1680.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's just, you are just a walking, talking success story.
Well, okay, you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
Nothing to do with music. And this is probably the biggest thing that ever happened to me in the sense of craziness. So
Okay.
when I was working, I told you that I used to write scripts for my
Yes.
radio
Yes.
show in college. So to practice, I became used to writing jokes in English, political jokes mostly. And so I used to write them on a blog. And one day I noticed that some newspapers in the country were taking some of the jokes, giving me credit, and posting them in the newspapers.
Oh,
And so I showed it to Bob Rivers and said, "Oh, look at this. It's amazing." And he goes like, "Oh, I didn't know you write jokes. Why don't we do this? During the show, we might read some of the jokes. And if they're funny, we laugh. If they are not, we make fun of you." I said, "Sure." So we started doing that once in a while. Bob would ask me for my jokes. They would read them on the air and then, approve or disapprove. And one day, we interviewed Jay Leno on the show. So Bob grabbed one of my jokes, and honestly, his delivery was horrible. So Jay started making fun of Bob and making fun of my joke. So Bob felt so horrible and so guilty that he said, "You know what? This weekend when Jay comes to town, I'm going to take you to see him. It's on me. We're going to go to a nice seat. I mean, we went to the booth. And then afterwards, we're going to go for the photo, the typical photo with Jay Leno." Okay. So we went, we enjoyed the show. Then afterwards, we went, to take the picture. And I had taken with me some cue cards with jokes that I had written and my phone number on the other side. So when we were for the photo with Jay Leno, I got on my knees and I said, "Mr. Leno, please take this home with you. And if you have some time, read them." And, typical radio, we filmed it. And on the air on Monday, we talked about it. We made fun of me for, for begging about my jokes. But everything, it was radio. In radio, you do that kind of stuff. I went back home that Monday, and on my answering machine, this is how old it was because we had answering machines at that time,
yeah.
there was a call from LA. So my wife and I were like, "Well, who can call me from LA?" When we listened to the call, it was Jay Leno.
Oh my gosh.
So it was like, "What?" So Jay Leno goes, "Oh, I'm not going to impersonate Jay Leno, okay?" But he goes, "Yeah, I love the joke. It was great. I'm going to use one during the show on Wednesday." Okay. And I was like, "Okay, this is not Jay Leno. This is probably Bob's friend who is an impersonator making fun of me." So I called Bob and I said, "Bob, it's okay. We can do this on the air, but this is not Jay Leno." And he was like, "I swear, this is not a friend of mine. This is Jay Leno."
All right.
Well, on the air the next day, of course, radio, we take advantage of everything. We play the call and we were like, "Okay, is it true or not? Do you think Jay is going to use one of the jokes?" And so the next Wednesday, everybody tuned into the Jay Leno to see if he was going to use one of my jokes. And he did. He used one of my jokes. I remember it was about Sarah Palin. That's how old he was. So, of course, the next day on the air, we played the clip of Jay Leno's delivering my joke, and the audience laughed. So everybody was happy. And the question was, what do I do now? Do I call Jay Leno to say thank you? So the audience will call in and say, "Oh, call Jay Leno." They send me emails, whatever. So I called Jay Leno, expecting, to have a secretary or a voicemail or something to leave a message. And so someone said, "Oh, you want to talk to Jay Leno? Hold on." And they put me through with Jay Leno.
Oh my gosh.
And I freaked out. My wife was next to me. I was shaking. I didn't know what to say.
Oh,
And he goes like, "Oh yeah, your joke worked out. It was great. So if you don't mind, you can keep on sending me jokes." I said, "What? Yeah,
oh,
you can send me jokes and we pay you." Okay, so that's what I started doing. I started doing 2014, no, 2008,
that,
2008.
that's amazing.
Started sending jokes every day, 10 jokes a day, and maybe he would use 4 jokes a week. And I did it for 6 years until Jay Leno retired.
Oh, my gosh. Pedro, you're amazing.
That was like, to me the biggest. I mean, I can when I tell people that I wrote for Jay Leno just like that, and like I got on my knees and I begged, and he took my jokes, and it's an amazing story. I'm so happy about that.
You're going to have to come back and tell this. You cannot, half an hour is not enough time. Not an hour is not enough time. So promise me you'll come back. And I have your phone number, by the way.
You're so kind, and again, I appreciate it. When I went to last time to the jam, I didn't expect anything. Like I told you, I'm a drum whore, and that Sunday I had the Monday off, and I wanted to play. I get really anxious when I don't play, so I was like, I told my wife, let's find a place. I saw about this place in Duval. I said, let's go, and I had such a blast. And it was people were so welcoming there. You were so welcoming there.
Thank you.
Like I was like, oh my God, I want to come back. So whenever the next time I had a day off on a Monday, I told my wife, we're gonna go again. And again, you guys were so nice to me. That's like, okay, I love this place. I'll be back whenever I have a Monday off because I really enjoyed everybody there.
Wonderful. Oh, I wish there was more time, but I do want to remind you that it's 31 minutes and 58 seconds that we've kept you. And I do want to do this again. Will you come back on our program?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately for you, I'm a talker. I love talking. This is what I did for a living for a long time.
Perfect. Well, Pedro, I hope to see you again soon. In the meantime, we're going to have to set up one of these when you're not working, even if it's at night. So I do look forward to finishing more of this story. You should write a book. Write a book.
Okay, I promise you next time I'm going to have a list of all the musicians that I got the chance to play on the Bob Rivers show. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. So you have a really good rest of your day. It's time for us to sign off. But my goodness, that was exciting. And unfortunately, we're not even live, so people can't respond to you. So next time we'll set it up where this doesn't happen again, and they can ask you these questions to interact. Okay?
Okay, no problem.
All right. You have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Can you send me on Messenger the radio station that it's something that you're producer there?
Yeah, sure. I sent you the link of the show.
All right, perfect. I want to start watching that. In the meantime, you have a good rest of your day. Say hello to your lovely wife for me, and we'll definitely take it from there.
Okay, thank you so much. Take care. Have a good one.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Now, that's our show for today. And I do have a young man coming on next Monday at 2. His name is Spencer. And right now, I don't have his last name, but he is the up-and-coming young man, like guitarist, drummer, bass player. I mean, you name it, Spencer can do it. And although he's not a older musician, where he's at right now is amazing because he has all of the skills of somebody who's been at it for years. So do catch that. We'll see you then. I'm sorry this didn't go through Matured Musicians. It will be on Facebook. It'll be on Matured Musicians, and it'll be on YouTube. So with all those places to go, do tune in and listen to Pedro's story. I think you'd enjoy it. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for joining me today.